Hello and welcome to Knits. My name is Ali. Today it is my next podcast episode and this is episode number 12. My last episode went up on the 13th of July, so it's almost been a month. I am filming this a couple of days before. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But it has been about a month. So we're going to talk about the progress that I've made on different projects. I've got some yarn acquisitions this time and lots of projects that you haven't seen in a while or are new, sort of. First up, I've had the flu the last few weeks. I'm feeling better, but I still have this cough and my voice is still a little sick. Video might be a little bit choppy because, yeah, I'm gonna try and cut out my coughs. And let's just jump into the finished objects. I have two. Again, I had two last podcast. I have two again. I finished 4 things in the last, well, now more than a month, but it was essentially like a month and like 4 days. I just finished 4 things back to back. So I don't have either of these because these were both gifts, which I've now passed those off to those people. So first ones are these socks, which are just some vanilla socks. These were for my partner's mum, Anne, and this was using 3 Trees Fibrecraft sock set in the color Tege. I've talked about these so many times and I still don't really know how you say that word, but these were finished finally on the 11th of July. I had filmed the video a couple of days before as Anne was visiting us, and so I finished them after the video was filmed but before it went up. This was, yeah, as I said, just a vanilla sock pattern. I was using the I'm So Basic socks by Summer Lee, mostly for the numbers, not so much the pattern, I guess. I did mostly do the things that I liked in terms of the cuff and etc. But yeah, I finished those ones and those have been passed off. And then I also finished another pair of socks. These are the Decathlon socks from Grandfield. And this is using Rainbows and Sprinkles. They're a 4-ply yarn and the color is called Sparks Fly. I love doing this sock. This is the second time I've used this pattern. The first time was in a DK pair, and this one, the pattern is actually for sock yarn. And so I thought I would do a sock yarn version. I handed these ones off to my best friend Angel. I ordered this yarn in 2024 and immediately knew I was going to use it for socks for Angel, even though at that point I wasn't really knitting socks. But it has the purple and the pink, which is very Angel. And also Sparks Fly is a Taylor Swift song, and both Angel and I are massive Swifties. So obviously I had to make those for her. I finished these ones on the 27th of July. And yes, I had knit the first sock already, but I was not happy with the toe. So I knit the second sock, finished that completely, did the different style toe, and then went back and fixed that first toe. Much happier with them after I'd done that. I also did this one a little bit differently. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see in the images I have, but I didn't do as many gusset decreases, so it was a little looser around the ankle, just for a little bit more comfort for Angel. So those are the 2 things I finished. And let's jump into the whips. You can see a little face over there. I don't anticipate finishing much over the next few months. I think it's going to be another kind of slower period where I'm building things up to that point again where they can be finished. I will probably in a couple of months have another kind of stream of things finished at all the one time. But let's start with the project I've made the most progress on. I have so many pairs of needles in this bag right now. And that is my Sabrina sweater. This is by SuviKnits. And I don't remember where it was the last time you saw this, but I have a feeling that I had perhaps just joined the front and back. But this is what I'm looking like so far. So I'm into the body a little bit. The sleeves have been split and I'm just a little bit into it. And as you can see, I've done the collar. Now this isn't the, you can probably tell the collar is quite large. This is actually a folded down collar. So it'll be sitting roughly about there. I finished the collar and I bound it off and I just honestly didn't want to immediately sew it down. I just wanted to, well, I tried it on to make sure that it was fitting fine and kind of, yeah, did a little fold for myself to see where it would sit. And I'm happy with the fit of it. So I will just do the collar at some point when I feel like it. But I've got quite a bit of the body to go. This comes to about here. So quite a bit to do on that. But I plan on, once I have done a couple more rounds of the body, I'm going to cast on one of the sleeves so that I can just have multiple things on the go. And yeah, this is Knitting for Olive in a kind of a mix of holding their fingering weight double, or their merino fingering weight double, and their heavy merino, which is DK. I'm just doing that single. This color is called Dusty Rose. I didn't order enough yarn, so I had to order more, but then there wasn't any of the merino left, and it was going to be a DK jumper anyway, so I ended up just getting the heavy merino. Very happy with it. Very happy with the little kind of cabling on the back, and yeah, lots more progress on that one and still a lot more to go. I've kind of come to the realization that I am probably not going to finish any more jumpers before the weather starts to warm up here. It's obviously only August, but I don't know. When it gets hot here, it gets really hot. So I'm sort of not really anticipating finishing any more sweaters. That just dropped on the floor before it gets way too hot to think about wearing something as thick as that one. Okay, so these ones are all ones that you have kind of seen before in some, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Some capacity, but they've kind of changed. So let's start with some socks first. I have these ones, which are my Scarab socks. Now, last time you saw this, I had significantly more of the sock, but I also had a pattern. So I'm following the pattern by Amina Ali, and I had followed the color work pattern on the leg, and I just didn't really like it. I just felt like it wasn't really doing what I was hoping for. So I decided to redo it and just do plain blue to the heel flap, and then on the foot is where the actual scarab of the design is. And so I'm going to do that there, and then I'm just going to keep the leg plain. I'm making 2 pairs of these, 1 pair for Angel and 1 pair for myself. So this is the pair for Angel. It's going to be a bit of a shorter pair, that's what she prefers, and I'm going to be following the color work pattern over the foot and at the bottom of the foot as well. There's also a pattern there, so that's how hers will look. And then for my pair, I'm kind of playing with the idea of having the scarab on the leg, because I don't know, I have super sensitive feet. I don't know how I'll go with having color work on the foot. I definitely could not do it on the bottom of my foot. So I might do something a little different, still using the kind of same idea from the pattern, but just slightly different placement. And I'm already much happier with these. I just casted this one on maybe a week ago, and then I had planned to do the cuff while I was on a trip, and I just didn't end up touching it. So I've done all of this in the last few days. The blue is very pretty. It's not really showing up as vibrant as it is in real life. It looks kind of navy on screen, but it's more... I realized I didn't talk about what yarn this is. The cuff is a cream, I think that's the name of the color, from Yarnsmiths, and it's the Merino sock. The blue, I've got 2 different blues for this sock. I think this one is the Maximoo yarns in Peacock, but I'm not 100% on that, I'm going to be honest. So I will put both of the names down below. So there's that one. And then I have another sock. This one is just a vanilla sock, and I've only done the cuff and 1 row of the leg, but this is using, sorry, these are a little bit tangled, but I have these little mini skeins from Ash and Eve Designs. So I've made this sock already, the first sock already, and this is me starting the second sock, which is actually going to be the first sock, because I'm going to rip out the one I finish because I'm not happy with it. And so I'm restarting it, but I just wanted to get the cuff done, honestly. And yeah, so to get back into it, I'm doing it a slightly different color order this time as well. This one I am again using that I'm So Basic sock pattern from Summer Lee. This one I am following the pattern a little bit closer. I did the 2x1 rib for the cuff, which I don't usually do. I usually do a 2x2, maybe a 1x1. I actually really like the 2x1, so I might do that in socks more often. So yeah, not very far with that one, but more to come on that. And then the final sock is another one that I have restarted. I've restarted this project this might be the 4th time that I've restarted this sock. This is what I have now. This is using more yarn from Rainbows and Sprinkles, and this is their DK. This is called Evermore because it was a Taylor Swift collection. I am just using the DK vanilla pattern from, is it Litton, I think. So yeah, I've started this multiple times. The first time I finished the whole sock, wasn't happy with how the toe looked. Then I did try to do a pattern and a few other things, and then I redid this the other week and I made it to the gusset decreases, and I decided that the problem that I was actually really having was that I didn't like the needles. I was using 4mm, which made the gauge very loose. And so we were in Melbourne the other weekend, and I went to a yarn store, one of my favorite yarn stores there, the Crafty Cottage, and picked up a pair of 3mm sock needles instead. And I'm much happier already. I've done the cuff and a little bit of the leg. You can't really see, but there is a tiny bit of leg there. And I'm much happier with them. These other 2 pairs of socks, the stripy one and this one, are just for me. So I'm just having a bit of fun rejigging my socks. A couple of months ago, like, the idea of ripping out a whole sock that I'd done, even though I wasn't happy with it, would have made me feel quite stressed and overwhelmed. And now I've kind of gotten to the point with my knitting where I'm like, well, if I don't like it, there's no point. So I'm less worried about ripping things back and starting things again, which is good. So those are the socks. 2 more whips I want to talk about. First one is one that has been on holders for a really long, well, not a really long time, probably like a month and a half now. This is just a gutter stitched face cloth. This is using Abbey Road Sunshine Cotton. I'll put the color name down below. This is just 100% cotton. I have a lot of cotton, and so I'm trying to use some up. As I said, this was on holders for about a month and a half. I was using these needles for another project. That project I restarted about 4 times as well, and it just kind of kept slipping off the needles. I was getting very frustrated. And so I thought I would just pause that and we'll come back to it. And I would just finish this up so that I didn't have, this is more than halfway done. I just didn't want to have a half done face cloth, which is something that we actually need, just sitting on holders for no reason. So I've done a few rows, but not a whole lot, but it is back on the needles and should hopefully finish that up soon. I guess that might be one project that I finish in the next few weeks. Next one, I want to introduce a project that I haven't actually talked about. This was part of a short a few weeks ago, but I haven't actually talked about it in a video yet. This is my Winter League pullover. This is a pattern from 2 of Wands, and this is also using, I did not think to check, but this is using some of the yarn that they created. I'll put the information down below. But this is kind of like a baseball pullover. I bought this yarn to make a blanket, And then I decided that I didn't really need another blanket project, or really anyone that I would give this blanket to. So I looked up some patterns, and then I found this one, and it asked for this exact yarn. So that makes it so much easier. I didn't have to worry about gauge being too far off, or like how many balls would I need in comparison to how many they say. I'm about halfway done with the kind of yoke increases. This works up pretty fast. These are 8mm needles, so yeah, it works up pretty fast when I actually do it. I've not really been touching it. Again, this one's going to be super warm. It is not going to be it's not going to be wearable from like September on here probably, but it will be nice and ready for next year. And yeah, definitely need to spend some more time on this one. So that is the end of the whips. Next, I want to talk very quickly about some yarn acquisitions that I made when we were in Melbourne. And then I have one little exciting thing to tack on to the end, as well as a little bit of a discussion. But yarn purchases. I went into the Crafty Cottage because I needed to get those 3mm needles, and then I also got what's the word I'm looking for? I got asked to make something from my partner's mum, and so I needed to go and get another set of needles for that project. She bought me the yarn and the pattern. I'll talk about this later. This is a gift, but the yarn that I have is Cleckheaton Country in the 8-ply, and this is 85% Australian wool, 10% acrylic, 5% viscose. Yeah, so I have 6 of these balls to make into the project. And as I said, I will talk more about this when I actually cast it on, but that will probably not be for a few more weeks, just while I try and get a little bit further with some of these. So I have those, and then while I was in the Crafty Cottage, I bought some yarn for myself. So I have this one here. This is Rosario's 4 Maya. This one I bought 2 balls of. It is sock yarn, and what have we got? 70% merino, 30% polyamide. I thought these would make really cute Christmas socks, so I decided I was going to make myself Christmas socks. So these ones will be cast on once I have some free sock needles. I will have a cast on party in a few weeks, casting on some new socks once I've finished off some of the ones I've already got, and these ones will be cast on hopefully around then. Yeah, I thought this was really cute. This doesn't have a color, it's just a number, but yeah, I thought it was pretty. And then while I was there, I was like, well, if I'm gonna make myself socks, maybe I should like make some socks for my partner Alex. I've been wanting to buy this yarn for a while now, and I haven't really had a project in mind. But this is a Zobber ball. This is a Zobber ball Crazy. And it is in German, but it was something to do with, I think it was maybe deep water was the color when I translated it. I've been wanting to get a Zobber ball because I wanted to see like how they knit up and how they feel. I had planned, I sort of thought like I would do socks, and then when I asked Alex, he was like, I don't want socks. I'm good with the 2 pairs of socks that you've knit me already. I knit him a hat a couple of months ago, and he was like, I would really like some gloves to go with it. Well, not go with it because that one is just grey, but I would like some gloves. So that's what this is going to turn into. I have never knit gloves before. I've never even done mittens. So a little nervous about that, but I'm sure it will be fine. And they probably, again, won't have them for him until next winter, but he's not going to care. So yeah, I'm excited to see how it looks when it's knit up. Yeah. So that is all of that. What we're going to move on to next is a little fun little bit. I last podcast episode I talked about the little gift that I got from Marsha from Fiber Me Happy. She sent me some Canadian snacks and some stitch markers and a dice. And so I said last podcast episode I would use that to decide which whip I would be working on, and I've done that. I rolled the dice already, and I put out, I typed up before I rolled the dice, 1 to 9 of patterns, just in a random order, not patterns, whips, and then I rolled the dice. And I got a 7, which, as you can see, is the Winter League pullover. Hence why I have introduced it to you in this episode. If it hadn't come up, I might not have introduced it yet, just because I haven't been working on it. But this is an excuse to do that. So, by next podcast episode, I would like to have some visible progress on this. So even if that's like a couple of rows, I just want it to be obvious that I've worked on it, and then it counts. Yes, we're keeping the dice we're not stressing myself out with it. We're just keeping it of a way of working on whips that maybe I've been avoiding a little bit. I'm going to take a quick water break, and then I will come back and I'm going to talk about some non-knitting stuff. So as I said, I'm just going to talk about a little bit of non-knitting stuff, kind of a bit of a personal update, / kind of channel plan update. I got a new job. I have not been working for the last couple of months while I have been focusing on other things, but I'm starting a new job, and it is part-time, which I'm very much looking forward to. I'm looking forward to being back at work, but it does mean that I'm going to be losing a lot of knitting time, and also filming time and editing time and all that. So I will be dropping my videos. I've kind of been doing like 3 a month. I will be dropping down to 2, and at least for the next few months, I'll see how I settle in and how things are going and what time I actually have. And with that, I'll also be posting some more shorts instead of the kind of long form videos, just like quick little knitting updates or other things like that. I've been doing shorts focusing on like a particular project and just like working on that one. So there'll be some more of that kind of stuff from me going forward, as I said, at least until I'm sort of settled. In saying that, then I get settled and then it's Christmas, so that's always a busy time. It's also kind of come at a really good time because I finished those 4 projects kind of back to back lately. I have been dedicating a lot of time to knitting and not doing anything else. And I love knitting. These days, it is my main hobby. It's the thing I do the most. And so obviously I enjoy it. And I really liked being able to finish some things. But I'm also keeping in mind that I do have other hobbies that I have been avoiding, ignoring in focusing on getting those things finished. So I could not tell you the last time I read a book. I think it was June. I also haven't really been working on my writing or anything like that. I haven't been blogging because I've been doing all this knitting and then doing all this content creation for this channel, and I haven't really been able to do other things. This has taken up the majority of my time, and while I really enjoy that, as I said, I would also like to do those other things as well so that I've got a little bit more of a balance. And I also think it's kind of a good time right now where all my projects are in that, like, a good amount of progress needs to be made on them before anything's going to be finished, apart from maybe the Facecloth. And so it's a good time to kind of step back a little bit and still be knitting, you know, as much as I can, but also being able to have those times where I put the projects down in place for picking up a book or opening my Scrivener document, which I've been avoiding, and everything like that. So this was really just, I just wanted to mention that these would be sort of changes that would be coming. And as I said, I will kind of reassess the situation and see what's going on as I settle into work, and then obviously as Christmas comes, and the schedule might get a little bit crazy, but I do really enjoy making these videos. So even if I am not here as often as I would like to be, I am slowly always working on videos in the background. Sometimes they just take months and months and months to film, like the Rosie vlog that I did in June or July. I can't remember when I posted it, but yeah, I have some videos that you will see at some point. But that is everything for today, I think. Yeah, we're definitely in that, like, it's time to knuckle down and just work on things as I can. And I'll definitely be focusing on the Winter League pullover before the next podcast, and hopefully I can show you some visible progress on there. But for now, I'll see you towards the end of the month. My videos will tend to be one podcast episode and one something else, depending on the kind of month I'm having, and we'll just go from there. I hope you're doing well. I'd love to hear if you've been finishing things lately, if you've knit any of these projects, and yes, I will see you next time. Bye.